When German pilots first crossed paths with the Spitfire in 1940, few could have predicted just how much this aircraft would come to define their struggle over the skies of Britain. Until then, the Luftwaffe had dominated campaigns in Poland, Norway, and France, often brushing aside weaker air forces with terrifying efficiency. But over the English Channel, things would change. The Spitfire was sleek, fast, and uniquely shaped, with elliptical wings that allowed for remarkable maneuverability. At first glance, it looked fragile compared to the rugged Messerschmitt Bf 109, but German pilots quickly realized that looks were deceiving. During the Battle of France, small skirmishes introduced the Luftwaffe to the RAF's new fighter, but it was over Britain that the Spitfire revealed its true potential. German formations of Heinkel bombers and 109 escorts soon found themselves harassed by squadrons of Spitfires that could climb quickly and turn with unnerving precision. For the first time, Luftwaffe aces accustomed to dominating dogfights faced opponents who could not only match them, but sometimes outfly them. Even propaganda in Germany admitted, albeit indirectly, that Britain possessed a formidable machine. Reports from frontline pilots described the Spitfire as a thorn in the side of bomber escorts. The Spitfire's speed allowed it to intercept incoming formations before they reached targets, while its firepower made each encounter deadly. Luftwaffe pilots began to realize that the days of effortless victories were over. And right here, let's pause, because if you're fascinated by this story of rivalry in the skies, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. That way you won't miss the rest of this incredible journey into what Germany really thought of the Spitfire. By mid-1940, German squadrons were forced to change their tactics. The Spitfire, often working in tandem with the Hurricane, had become a constant obstacle. The Luftwaffe had entered the Battle of Britain expecting another quick victory. Instead, they found themselves up against a fighter that inspired respect, frustration, and grudging admiration. The first encounters with the Spitfire were not just a tactical surprise, they were the beginning of Germany's realization that this aircraft would haunt them for the rest of the war. As the Battle of Britain intensified, Luftwaffe pilots gained a bitter respect for the Spitfire. In the skies above the Channel and southern England, the duels between Spitfires and Messerschmitt Bf 109s became legendary. German pilots, many of them seasoned aces from campaigns in Spain and France, had expected to dominate. Yet they soon found the Spitfire was not only an equal opponent, but in certain situations, a superior one. One of the Spitfire's greatest strengths was its ability to turn tightly in combat. While the Bf 109 had impressive speed and climb rates, it often lost turning battles to the Spitfire, which could outmaneuver it in close-range dogfights. Luftwaffe ace Adolf Galland once admitted that he wished he could fly Spitfires for the German side, calling it one of the best fighters of the era. Such statements revealed just how much admiration, however grudging, the Germans had for this British aircraft. But the Spitfire wasn't invincible. German pilots quickly learned that their 109s could outdive the Spitfire and had superior acceleration in a steep descent. This led to the Luftwaffe developing boom and zoom tactics, diving in with speed, attacking, then climbing back out of range before the Spitfire could fully react. Still, these maneuvers required precision and discipline, and not every pilot had the skill to execute them effectively. The duel became one of wits as much as engineering. Spitfire squadrons adapted, anticipating German hit-and-run tactics and forcing the enemy into drawn-out turning battles where the British fighter excelled. In these engagements, the Luftwaffe's losses mounted and morale among bomber crews suffered. Every time Spitfires appeared on the horizon, German pilots knew they were in for a brutal test of nerves and skill. By late 1940, the Spitfire had carved out a reputation in German minds as the RAF's crown jewel, a fighter that could not be underestimated. While many Luftwaffe aces achieved impressive kill counts, they rarely dismissed the Spitfire lightly. For Germany's fighter command, the aircraft represented a worthy and dangerous adversary, one that would challenge their dominance in the air again and again. Beyond the adrenaline of dogfights, Germany's leadership and intelligence services took a closer look at the Spitfire's design. What they discovered only deepened their respect and their concern. German engineers were impressed by the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, which delivered a balance of speed, reliability, and high-altitude performance. This power plant allowed the Spitfire to climb quickly, maintain agility in combat, and pursue German bombers before they reached their targets. For Luftwaffe strategists, it was alarming to see an aircraft so finely tuned for defense. Reports from German pilots emphasized the Spitfire's turning ability. Its elliptical wings were not simply a design flourish, but an engineering triumph, reducing drag and granting exceptional maneuverability. In practice, this meant that once a Spitfire locked onto a target in a turning battle, escaping its sights was extremely difficult. Luftwaffe crews, especially those flying bombers, described the Spitfire as an ever-present predator, able to appear suddenly and with lethal precision. What troubled German planners even more was the RAF's ability to upgrade the Spitfire continually. Early models fought during the Battle of Britain, but by 1941, newer marks with more powerful engines and enhanced armaments were already rolling off production lines. This adaptability meant that even as the Luftwaffe introduced improved fighters like the Bf-109F and later the Focke-Wulf 190, the Spitfire remained competitive. German intelligence realized they were facing not a static machine, but a constantly evolving one. For Luftwaffe engineers, the Spitfire was a symbol of British industrial ingenuity. While Germany had its own impressive designs, the sheer efficiency with which Britain mass-produced and improved its fighter left German command uneasy. Captured Spitfires studied by German experts confirmed what their pilots already knew. This was not just a fighter, but a masterpiece of engineering. By 1941, the technical reputation of the Spitfire was firmly established inside Germany. It was more than just an aircraft. It was a reminder that Britain, though battered and isolated, possessed the will and the capability to stand toe-to-toe with the Reich in the skies. For the Luftwaffe, this realization was both sobering and deeply frustrating. By late 1940 and into 1941, the Luftwaffe could no longer deny that the Spitfire was a formidable challenge. To cope with its agility and speed, German pilots and commanders experimented with new tactics, often born out of desperation. The once straightforward dominance of the Messerschmitt Bf-109 now required calculated maneuvers to survive encounters with RAF fighters. One of the most common German adaptations was the bounce tactic. Instead of engaging Spitfires in turning battles, where the British fighter held the advantage, Luftwaffe pilots learned to dive steeply from higher altitude, strike quickly, and climb away before the Spitfire could respond. This hit-and-run method allowed German aircraft to leverage their superior dive speed, though it required precise timing and teamwork to succeed. In contrast, drawn-out engagements usually ended in heavy German losses. Another response was the introduction of new aircraft. The Focke-Wulf FW-190, unveiled in 1941, was in part a reaction to the Spitfire's dominance. German pilots celebrated its raw power and firepower, and for a brief period, it regained air superiority. Yet the RAF quickly countered with upgraded Spitfire variants, narrowing the gap once again. This back-and-forth escalation created a relentless aerial arms race, one in which the Luftwaffe found itself constantly challenged. Bomber crews, meanwhile, adopted tighter formations, hoping mutual defensive fire would ward off the Spitfires. Still, many Luftwaffe veterans recalled the dread of seeing Spitfires diving into their groups with unwavering precision. Reports from returning bomber units often listed heavy casualties, with the Spitfire repeatedly named as the most dangerous adversary. Even German propaganda, which usually downplayed enemy strength, could not entirely ignore the Spitfire. Instead, it painted the British fighter as a worthy foe, a way of preserving morale while acknowledging reality. For Luftwaffe strategists, the aircraft forced constant adjustments to planning and execution. The Spitfire was not just a plane in the sky, it was an obstacle shaping the very tactics of Germany's air war. By the time these countermoves were in place, Germany understood that the Spitfire would not fade away. Each sortie demanded respect, and every pilot knew that underestimating it meant gambling with survival. As the war dragged on, the Spitfire became more than just a fighter in German eyes. It became a symbol. For Luftwaffe pilots, it was the aircraft that denied them swift victory during the Battle of Britain, an enemy they could never fully overcome. For German commanders, it was a constant reminder of Britain's resilience and technological ingenuity, a thorn that disrupted their plans for aerial supremacy. German memoirs written after the war reveal a complex mixture of fear and admiration. Many Luftwaffe aces admitted that the Spitfire was the only Allied aircraft they truly respected as an equal. Pilots recalled that whenever Spitfires appeared, the mood in the cockpit shifted. What might have seemed like an easy mission against bombers or ground targets suddenly became a fight for survival. The very silhouette of the elliptical wing, often glimpsed at the edge of cloud cover, could send a shiver down even the most seasoned aviators. At the same time, admiration for the Spitfire's design and performance remained undeniable. Even decades later, German veterans spoke with a sense of awe about how well the aircraft balanced speed, maneuverability, and firepower. Some confessed that they were secretly relieved to be shot down by a Spitfire rather than by lesser planes. It felt like losing to a champion rather than an underdog. The legacy extended beyond pilots. Within German industry and military planning, the Spitfire forced constant innovation, driving the Luftwaffe to evolve its fighters and adapt its strategies. In many ways, the aircraft shaped the German air war more than any other Allied machine. Its reputation grew so vast that even those who never faced it firsthand understood its significance. By 1945, as Germany collapsed under the weight of Allied air power, the Spitfire remained etched into the memories of those who had battled it. To the Luftwaffe, it represented the turning tide of the war, an aircraft that embodied Britain's refusal to yield. Fear, respect, and grudging admiration all blended together, leaving the Spitfire with a unique place in German wartime memory. It was not merely a machine, it was a legend they could never escape.